That's a
Hello,
little.
this is welcome guitar nerds. This is Rod, and this is my old. I say old. I don't want him to slug me, but old friend from like 1988, friend Alec Fehl. We were Berklee mates. He was the shred king, and I was the niche player. I was the guy. I was the only guy he knew who owned a 12-string guitar, so I got the gig. So
It's true. I remember that.
yeah. So so it's been what, like 30 some years. That's an old friend.
That's an old friend,
Yeah. Yeah.
or if it's a friend from a long time ago.
Yeah, that is right, cuz that's the part I don't want you to hit me. Cuz I know where you can go with it. Okay, so how you doing these days?
I am well, very good.
So what do you're teaching, you're playing? Are you playing at all? You said you have a country band.
Playing a little bit. Things have been rough since COVID.
Mhm.
Um, obviously not a whole lot of places open, and the few places that are open, I'm just not comfortable going out and huge groups of people right
Yeah.
now. The country band, I've been with them for a few years. We still have virtual rehearsals once a week, gearing up for some outdoor gigs this summer that look like they're actually going to happen.
Okay.
So I'm playing with them, uh, and I do a lot of playing, really just developing content for my guitar students.
All right.
A lot of studies and a lot of cage system kind
Mhm.
of stuff, videos and tutorials, and a lot of uh, educational content.
That's
Has
wonderful.
really keeping me busy.
That's like all I'm doing now.
Yeah, yeah.
I played New Year's.
Did you?
Yes. It was like a half-hour show and it was all televised, but that's the last gig I had. It's like,
Well, the
we're in
last
March
gig,
now.
I had must have been well over well, no, not over a year ago. I did do a pickup, kind of country-ish gig, outdoor lawn concert thing a few
Okay.
months ago.
Hmm.
But aside from that, yeah, it's probably been a year.
Yeah. Yeah. So we go far back. Like I met Alec. He was like two floors beneath me in Massachusetts Avenue at Berklee when Berklee was in that hotel uh, where I met my first cockroach. Where I where I had to have a handful of quarters to call mom and dad. You kids don't know what it's like. It's
No cell phones, no texting.
yeah, no,
I re-
no internet. We're old as dirt.
I remember Gary Shutt was the only one with a computer,
Okay.
uh, and he used to print out. I don't even know what he did. He was like writing stuff in basic code where he'd print out these banners, like a picture of Snoopy,
Yeah.
uh, made all with like the letter A.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Real
yeah,
important stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
$3,000 computer that makes pictures of Snoopy
It
out of.
makes Snoopy. Yeah, that was it.
So how did you get your start in music? Take me back to your childhood, the beginning. How did little Alec
um,
get there?
I think it was my father's mother, my grandma Edith. Uh, she got me playing a little bit of piano and a little bit of guitar. I must have been maybe 4 years old, um, and didn't do much with that because I was 4 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but I think some of that stuck with me. I started taking guitar lessons officially when I was about 6.
Okay.
Just took lessons at the local music school.
Okay.
My first teacher I still remember was Peter Marks. Uh, I'm still in contact with him, kind of. We email once every few years. But I was with him up through, probably up to high school. I took lessons with him, just learning how to play chords and read music and, learn some scales and chord solos and things. And then I got into high school and I started getting into more rock, switched music teachers, Bob Loyacano, who's on Facebook, and he and I message every once in a while. And he was my other guitar instructor all through high school. So it was really these two stable teachers that I had all through 6 years old through when I graduated high school.
Yeah. So where are you from?
Miami, Florida.
Miami, Florida. Okay. So your first guy, he taught you how to read?
How to read music, yeah.
Yep. That kind of stuff.
Music and, play chords and play chord solos. I remember my first recital was a chord solo of I've Been Working on the Railroad.
All right.
Which, you would like play a chord and you just stop at whatever the melody note was. I don't remember it because I was years old, but it was.
Yeah, mine was John Denver.
My father was always trying to get me to play John Denver.
Yeah. So so the John Denver Annie song and Take Me Home Country Roads
and Leaving on a Jet Plane.
Yeah. That was my first recital. It's like yep. So anyway, through high school you were you got into the rock bug, and who were your first influences?
My very first influence was Eddie Van Halen.
Okay.
I remember hearing Eruption, the first time on a cassette. I had gotten it from the Columbia House Record and Tape Club. I'm sure
Same here.
People of our generation remember that club.
Record from Columbia.
Yeah.
Along with a bunch of other Van Halen. I got like Fair Warning. I got Van Halen 2, Van Halen 1 all one shot. You could pick like 9 albums, 10 albums free or whatever.
Like 12 records for a penny. Then you had to buy 10 more in a year or something. But I'd say Eddie Van Halen was probably my first real big influence that made me think about guitar a different way. Like he wasn't just playing a chord solo to I've Been Working on a Railroad.
Yeah.
So that was life changing. And then all through high school, I was just really into the shreddy guys and the 80s hair metal and all the Shrapnel players. Dawkins, George Lynch. That I was really into. Randy was a huge influence.
Yeah.
Remember the first time I heard Brad Gillis and Jeff Watson from Night Ranger. There were definitely some pivotal musical moments.
Yeah.
Dio, Vivian Campbell was a huge influence. Adrian Vandenberg from Vandenberg.
We have the same record collection.
Yeah.
Because that's all of it, all that stuff I had.
And then just all the Shrapnel guys, Yngwie, of course, was, mind blowing. Paul Gilbert, Greg Howe, Tony McAlpine, Vinnie Moore, all those folks. Yeah, so I was really into the just the technique thing for years. And Michael Hedges also. I always played acoustic and trying to do some classical. And then when I got to Berklee, it was very much a jazz school. So I resisted a lot of that because I was into Ozzy and Rat and Dokken.
Because that's jazz.
And here's jazz, and I
bunch of squares.
I didn't see the connection then.
Yeah.
I wish I did. I wish I had been a more mature student where I could see the benefit of learning all that jazz theory. Now I love that jazz theory and I teach the jazz theory. And
Yeah.
I incorporate it into my playing and my lessons as best I can.
Yeah.
But I was not interested in it then. And I kind of had wished at the time that I had gone to Musicians Institute instead, because that seemed to be more, it was still jazz theory. It was the same theory that they're teaching at Berklee.
Yeah.
It was just packaged and delivered a little differently. They seem to have a more versatile and well-rounded curriculum.
Yeah.
They focus on rock and fusion and country and jazz and just modern music, whereas Berklee, at least at our time, was jazz.
Yeah.
Like bebop jazz. There were even very few instructors at the time who were like the blues rock kind of players or fusion players.
Who's Cliff?
Yeah, there was Cliff Maddox, who was the heavy metal teacher because he was like the only one with long hair.
And a Pink Jackson.
And he led the heavy metal ensemble.
Yeah, and he wasn't even a heavy metal dude.
And I think there was an instructor, if this is his name, I want to say Jim Kelly.
Yeah, Jim Kelly's wonderful.
Yeah, and he had kind of that, more of a rock edge, like Larry Carlton kind of vibe.
Yeah.
But aside from that, just everything else was bebop, straight up jazz, and I just wasn't interested.
Yeah.
So that was a struggle, but I think a lot of it leaked in somehow, because years later when I'm going back and I'm trying to revisit this stuff, it's like, yeah, I remember that. That actually makes sense because I learned it 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So Kirk Shoemake was your teacher.
Kurt Shoemate was my teacher. He was my private instructor. I think because of my major, I only had private instruction lessons with him for the first 2 years, maybe 3 years.
You were production and engineering.
Music production and engineering, right?
So back in the day, what did music and production and engineering entail? Tell us.
It entailed me realizing that I hated my major. That's mostly what it entailed.
Reel-to-reel tapes.
It was reel-to-reel tapes and the big analog soundboards. The only thing that I was good at was splicing the reel-to-reel tapes.
Okay.
Now you do all that in software. You just cut a clip out. But I remember having to sit there with the razor blade and cellophane tape and doing that with the tapes. But I just did not have an ear for the EQ side of it. Like I couldn't EQ drums to save my life.
Okay.
And I was always jealous of the people on the other side of the glass who were the players, who were the performers. So, even though I was a music production major, I actually spent more time in the studio as a guitar player, playing on other people's sessions than I did actually working the board.
Which I'm envious, because I think I played with you.
Yeah.
Because we're like one of 800 guitar players or something like that.
Yeah, there were a lot of guitar players, but at the time there were really very few rock players.
Okay, there was some of our contemporaries were. Who do we remember?
Well, there were a few contemporaries who got pretty famous. Did pretty well in the industry. The guys from Dream Theater were there my first semester.
Okay.
Portnoy and Petrucci and Myung. And they were called Majesty at the time. They were just a three-piece, but I remember them in the rehearsal studio. So they were there. JD, John DeServio, bass player in Black Label Society, plays with Zach Wild. He was there. He and I were pretty good friends and played a lot of shows together. And Brian Tichy, a drummer. He's voted I don't know. He's constantly in like modern drummer is one of the top
Well,
You know,
he's my favorite rock drummer, probably.
yeah, he's awesome, and he's played with everyone, you know,
Yeah.
Foreigner and Ozzy and Billy Idol. So they, you know, they were like the guys who went on who would be recognizable. Um, other other really good players, TJ Brinjack,
Yeah.
you know, he was awesome.
Hmm.
Todd West, I don't know if you remember him. Dorian Hartsong, Al Hanish. Yeah,
Yep.
there were really good musicians there. Powell, Randolph, Dan
Yeah.
Clement. Yeah,
Yeah.
there were some.
Guitar player wise, who we had. I remember it was mostly it was you. You were doing all the shows in the cafeteria.
Yeah,
You and Mark, the guy looked like
Mark Donnells.
yeah, he looked like Carlos Cavazo back in the day.
Yeah, yeah,
So he was wonderful.
yeah. He was awesome. Mark was
And
great.
we had this contemporary. His name is Toshi. That
Yes.
Toshi, his claim to fame was he was teaching the Berklee guys or Berklee teachers. That's what he told us.
Yeah. There was Toshi. There was Darren Householder.
Yeah,
As far as like the shreddy guys,
yeah.
uh, you know, it was me trying to be that. There
Huh?
was Toshi, there was Darren, and there was Steve Ripley. I don't know if you remember Steve.
I know.
We were like at least the well, and Mark Donnells also.
Yeah.
I think we may have been like the
But Gary
five.
Shutt too.
And who?
Gary Shutt.
And Gary six. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just a few of us. Um, and then in the later years, Terry was there. I can't pronounce his last name. Terry S. He ended up being an instructor at Berklee for a while, but he was unbelievable. He was like the first student that I saw at Berklee that could really do that stuff smoothly. He was so clean.
Yeah.
It's like SYZ. You know, it's a lot of vowels.
Yeah. So, so when you're in high school, were you shreddy in high school? Were you able to do all that stuff? When did
Well,
when did
shredding
you
is
come of age?
shredding is being kind. I mean, I don't know that I was ever shredding. I was trying to do it in high school. You know, I was trying to do the
Yeah.
you know, you try to do that in high school. You try the you
Yeah.
know, all the Ingve arpeggios. Um, so I was trying to do that in high school, and then I was trying to do that at Berklee, and I played a few Ingve songs and Tony McAlpine and Greg Howe and stuff like that in my recitals. I don't know if I did it justice back then, but when you're in the moment and you're, you know, 20, 21 years old, you think you're awesome.
You were awesome. That you're just being humble.
Well, thank you.
You were totally kicking ass.
Um,
You were doing it.
but I haven't really played that style now,
Yeah.
you know, all that kind of stuff. Eric Johnson, yeah, all those.
Well, you did the Cliffs of Dover.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's all.
yeah. You did the whole thing back in the day. So,
Yeah,
so
yeah, I was in that.
was your guitar playing? Any of your guitar playing? Do you think benefited from Berklee, or was it already? It was already there by the time you got.
Well, Berklee as an institution didn't help me to hone any technique because Berklee wasn't about that.
Yeah.
It was being in the environment that Berklee offered
Yeah.
that forced me to hone my technique, because I'd see guys like Gary and like Mark and you know, like, and I'd say I want to be able to do that, and if they're playing that, I need to be able to do that. You know, so there was always that kind of
Gauntlet down.
friendly. I don't even know that I would call it friendly competition as much as it was really just friendly inspiration. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just being in that environment and playing with some great people, you know, that's, I think, really what pushed a lot of my.
Do you remember Richie Goods?
Who?
Richie Goods.
No.
he was a bass player that was like got to match all the impossible Chick Corea stuff, all those Chick
Yeah.
Corea
If
doors.
it if it was jazz, it wouldn't have been on my radar.
He also worked in the cafeteria. That's how. But he was just
Uh,
ridiculous. He had a Mockingbird bass.
no, the only jazz bass player I remember was Kai Eckhart.
Oh, okay. He wasn't there when I was.
Yeah, he was unreal, and he went on to do
John
really well.
McLaughlin. He,
What?
he played with John McLaughlin.
Who?
Kai,
Kai?
I think so.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So, um, so you graduate, graduate with music production and engineering. Your next goal, your next journey is
Yeah. So
we're headed west.
so I I graduated with a major in MP&E, music production and engineering, and a minor in guitar performance. Uh, and I went home and packed up my stuff and drove cross country with my best friend from Miami to Los Angeles. And I moved to Los Angeles, not knowing anyone, not having a job. Went out there to seek my fortune as a rock star. Which, looking back at Berklee, like I said, I wish I had been a more mature student. I went in with the idea that I was going to be a rock star, not a musician. And I think there's a big,
You and me are the same way there. Yeah.
big difference.
Yeah.
If only I could go back now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what we know now, I definitely go back with being a better musician
Hmm.
as a goal.
Well, check this out. There's like every once a year, I get a really depressing Berkeley dream that I wake up. Says education can be, I forget who said it, but is wasted on the young.
Youth, youth is wasted on the young.
Yeah. Educate. So I get this really a depressing dream that I was at Berkeley and I was learning this and learning that and learning studying with this guy and then I wake up and it's oh. But anyway, go. You went out
Yeah.
west with
Yeah. So we went out west, and my friend that I drove out there with was going to school at University of Florida, which is in Gainesville. So we passed through Gainesville on the way. Our first day, we're passing through Gainesville. I had a brand new minivan. That was my graduation gift. And my friend was driving, and we were parked in the parking lot of like a college apartment complex in Gainesville, and somebody backed out of their space into it. We were just sitting there, and they pulled out of their space, backed up, didn't even look, smashed into the driver's side door, caved it in, and then for 4 days driving to Los Angeles, we couldn't open the driver's side door. And then that was kind of my welcome to Los Angeles. The very first thing I had to do, find an apartment and get the van door fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my welcome to adulthood.
Yeah. Yeah. Screw this. I want to be a kid.
Yeah. So so I was in Los Angeles for just under 10 years, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to be a rock star, playing in bands, playing gigs at night, and substitute teaching for the Los Angeles Unified, was it LAUSD, Los Angeles Unified School District.
Okay.
I was a substitute teacher and ended up being a full-time math teacher. So over those 10 years, I kind of found my calling as an educator, as a teacher. I had always, been like a camp counselor and camp director, and just kind of fell into the substitute teaching thing. And that really led me on, a 35-year career now as an educator.
Yeah.
Whether it's been in the public school system, teaching math, adult ed, teaching computer programming, or teaching guitar.
Computer programming. You didn't, but you said the only person back at Berkeley who had a computer was Gary Shutt.
Yep.
It's like this is all So do you think that the stuff that like that we learn these disciplines as musicians, do you think any of that carried over to get you to checking out how to get into this computer programming thing or whatever it is?
Yeah, well, I can say pretty definitively it had nothing to do with Gary's pictures of Snoopy
Yes, or his computer for that matter.
or his computer for that matter. No, it was when I was going to night school in Los Angeles, working on my teaching credential. One
Yeah.
of the assignments I had to create, I don't know, I had to do something on a computer. I had to create something called a Microsoft Word document. And I didn't know what a document was. I didn't know what an icon was. I didn't know if you move the mouse here, something's happening on the screen.
You're like my 85-year-old mother trying to learn the.
Exactly. I knew absolutely nothing about computers at all. But a friend of mine, walked me through it, showed me how to use Word. And this was back in the day. I think the computer was probably a Mac Classic or a Mac SE30, which you've seen them in movies. They're like, lunchbox size.
Hmm.
The screen's built in, had a little slot for a floppy disk.
I had one, yeah.
Yeah. So I learned on that. And I don't know, I think there's a connection between math and music and computers. It seems to be that a lot of people in one of those fields tends to be fluent in the other. A lot of musicians that I know also work a lot with computers, or they're math people. They love puzzles.
Yes.
They're good spatially and visually. I think a lot of that just goes together, and a lot of that's related to the guitar. Obviously, there's a lot of patterns. There's a lot of geometry. Aside from the whole musical part of using your ear and your aesthetic senses to make music,
Hmm.
there's also the scientific side, and there's, I think, like the OCD kind of. There's the rules. There's a method. There's a formula for major scales, and
Yeah.
that spawns the modes, and why can you play this certain scale over a dominant chord, and what does it mean to be altered dominant, and
Yeah. Yeah.
there are reasons for that, and it's all very mathematical.
Yes. You know that Berkeley was started by a mathematician.
I may have known that at
At one
one
time.
time.
Joseph Schillinger.
Really?
He was a math musician. He was a mathematician, musician, and he taught Gershwin. He taught all these like up and coming people, and he married math and music.
Yeah. Well,
Things I can't even do because I'm not the math guy.
yeah.
Math to me means addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. That's the extent of it.
That's all you need.
All right.
Yeah. Everything else are just shortcuts and different ways of doing those four.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you the kind of bands you get into. What kind of bands were you playing out in LA?
Well, I was primarily in one band, and it wasn't so much a band as a duo. It was me and a keyboard player slash singer songwriter, John Sabino. Our band was 3 Minute World, and it was whoever the bass player and drummer of the month were. It was really hard to keep people.
Yeah.
But it was LA in the 90s. It was a lot of competition. So, we were playing gigs like Tuesday morning at 2 a.m. is like when we go on. I remember we would play this club in the Valley called FM Station. If anybody was, if anybody out there was in
That
Los
sounds
Angeles,
like Jackie remembers that station.
they know FM Station. But we play FM Station. We play Madame Wong's. We play Club Lingerie. I don't think we ever got into the Rainbow or the Whiskey or those big places.
Yeah.
But there were plenty of little places to play.
Yeah.
So John and I played together, wrote a lot of music, recorded a lot of stuff. My favorite stuff is up on my website under my old stuff link. I think it's important for students. They see guys, they see guys like us who are just, play flawlessly and, no effort, right? And they think that just happens overnight. So I think it's important to share
The
all
video
of
was fair.
your works, the old stuff when maybe things weren't quite so smooth, and say, look, it wasn't always this easy.
Yeah.
It takes work and it takes dedication.
Yeah.
But someday you can be just like Rod,
Yeah, exactly. That's what.
Yeah. So John and I played together for a long time. And then I don't know what happened, but I got into blues. Sometime during my LA stint, I got really into.
Okay.
I got really into Stevie Ray, and I started a blues band with a friend called the Blue Dogs, and we played around for probably my last year in LA. Yeah, those were the two bands.
So when did you rumor has it you auditioned for the Chili Peppers?
Yeah, me and about 500 other people auditioned for the Chili Peppers.
Okay.
Mark Donnell's was there, from Berklee.
Uh-huh.
That looks like Carlos Cavazo. He, by the way, is in a band now called Yacht Rock, and they're awesome.
Yeah.
They play all that old 70s adult contemporary easy listening stuff, but they're like,
that's the thing.
cool when they do it. Like Baby Come Back by Player.
Yeah.
Old Hall & Oates stuff.
Little River Band. Love me some
Little River Band. They play all that stuff. And
they're okay.
So yeah, Mark was there. So I don't even know how my sister found out about it, but because I had no idea. My sister's the one who told me about the audition, and she called me. She must have been living in Georgia at the time, and I was in LA, and she called me and she said, "Did you know that Chili Peppers are auditioning guitar players? Here's a number. You have to call this number and leave a message." This was way before email and texting and the internet and all that.
This is Frusciante. This is after Blood Sugar Sex Magic when.
Yeah. It was after that. So I wasn't really a huge Chili Peppers fan at the time. I remember Powell Randolph, drummer at Berklee. He was really into the Chili Peppers, and actually where I first heard about them. So I was familiar with them enough to know this might be a cool gig. And I called the number, and they didn't even say anything on the machine, back in the days of machines and telephones. And it was just a prompt to leave your name and number, someone will get back to you. And that was it. And, you didn't know if it was legit. And a few days later, I got a call saying, here's your audition time and your location, here's the address.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't give you any other information. So I spent a good 2 weeks going through every single Chili Peppers album, learning every single Chili Peppers song, like note for note, because that was like my thing all through high school and in Berklee. My thing was learning stuff note for note, really trying to cop something. Mm-hmm. So I got all these Chili Peppers songs like down. I knew every album, I had them nailed. And I was so stoked for this audition. So I have my time and the date and the place, and I go to the audition, and it's in like a warehouse, and there's a huge parking lot, and there are literally like 500 other guitar players there with the same audition time. And I see Mark Donnell's out there, mm-hmm. And I see, what's your audition time? He's like 1:30. So that's my time, 1:30. And the guy standing next to me says, that's my time, 1:30. It was just a
all line up, and if you didn't look right, you wouldn't even get to the second.
So you go in, and they've got a video camera, this great big, sit on the shoulder video camera, because that's the technology back then. And of course, the Chili Peppers were not there. I don't know who was there playing drums and playing bass, maybe their techs or their, roadies or whatever. And they just start, playing this funk groove in a, whatever, some kind of funky rock groove in A. And they just say, go play. So it's not a Chili Pepper song. You have no idea what to do. And they just say, play. And I don't know, am I supposed to play rhythm? Is there going to be a singer? Am I supposed to solo? What am I supposed to do? And you play for about 30 seconds, and then they just stop and say, thank you, next. And you're out of there, and the next guy comes in, and he's there for 30 seconds. And they're out, and the next guy's, and he's there for 30 seconds. So that was my big one-on-one with the Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
And then it ends up that they had already hired Dave Navarro as the guitar player anyway.
Okay.
And it was rumored that it was just a negotiating tactic for Navarro and the Chili Pepper. Navarro maybe wanted more money for, to do what he was going to do with the band. And the Chili Pepper said, we're not going to pay you anymore. We'll just go get someone else. Yeah. Navarro said, you'll never find someone else. And they said, we're going to audition every guitar player in the state. So they had this big open audition, and then I guess they worked it out. Don't quote me on that. It's not libel or slander. It's just.
No, it sounds completely believable. Sounds completely believable.
It's just a guess.
All right, so now you went back east because you left LA because
I left LA. I left LA. So, okay, backtrack to Berklee, to Boston. My first semester, I had a roommate, Tom Monell, who I wasn't crazy about as a roommate for the first, few months, to be honest. But I love the guy now, and we're still pretty good friends. And he was dating a girl at the time, at first semester at Berklee, named Kibi. And it didn't work out with them, but Kibi and I ended up being really good friends. And then fast forward, 10 years, I'm in LA. Kibi happened to move to LA, and we're still friends. And Kibi says, ooh, I have the perfect girl for you. I have someone I want you to meet. And she told her friend, this girl, Jackie, I have the perfect guy for you. You should meet him. Mm-hmm. And it was a blind date that neither Jackie and I nor I wanted to go on. Neither one of us wanted to meet the other person. So it was a blind date, and 9 months later, we ended up getting married.
That's wonderful.
No, 9 months later, we got engaged. Yeah. 9 months later, we got married. And it was all because my first semester college roommate was Tom. If it wasn't for Tom, I wouldn't have met Kibi. If it wasn't for Kibi, I wouldn't have met Jackie.
Tom.
So if I had it to do all over again, I would go to Berklee and not MI for that reason only.
Smooth talker.
But I probably would have taken like summer classes at MI.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so Jackie and I got married, and she's originally from Chicago. I'm originally from Miami. Los Angeles was really far from our families. We wanted to be closer to our families, kind of midpoint, close enough to drive, not close enough for people to just pop in. Mm-hmm. And we did a lot of research and settled on Asheville, North Carolina. So being close to family was part of it. There were a lot of problems with LA, just the heat and the pollution and the traffic and the mudslides and the crime and the expense, and wonderful, wonderful Thai food, best Thai food in the world. But that wasn't enough to keep us there. So we moved to North Carolina, and we've been here for a little over 21 years at this point.
Mm-hmm. It's one of my favorite places on earth. I could see living there if it weren't for the fact that I'm not rich. Because now the real estate is like crazy, but it's
real estate is
It's got art. It's got crazy. A big art district. It's got a big art district. Got lots of music opportunities. It's got really good.
There's lots of music. There's a huge artist community. That's what my wife does primarily. She's an artist. It's a very artsy community, a very open-minded community. It's a good place most of the time overall.
Yep. So now you're a college professor.
I am.
Yeah.
I'm a big fancy college professor. I know it's so grown up. People actually call me professor sometimes,
Yeah.
which blows my mind because it just sounds like an old man, professor.
You need to let
Yeah.
the hair grow like
Yeah.
that.
With so I teach primarily computer programming, web programming, mostly front end stuff.
Okay.
HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I teach that stuff. I teach computer hardware, how to take them apart, put them together, about hard drives and RAM and stuff like that. And what's interesting is that I'm really self-taught with all of that. I never went to school for computers. Taught myself because, you know, again, it must be in me because the musician, math and music and computer thing just came natural. And I ended up writing textbooks too. I've written about 30 computer textbooks across all, you know, all various disciplines of computer stuff. So I consider that really to be my day gig.
Yeah.
Writing textbooks and teaching computers. And then I teach private guitar lessons out of the Asheville Music School. Well, you know, obviously the last year hasn't been in person. Everything's been virtual, Skype or Zoom or Google Meet or something like that. But I've been teaching guitar really since high school. So I mean, that's just something that I've always done. And I teach a rock band ensemble, kind of like a School of Rock kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been doing that at the Asheville Music School for a long time also.
So yeah, I've seen pictures of this contrary, like that picture that is on this, that'll be on this video, and it was on the, you were saying that's the way I normally dress every day. That was a Beatle. You did a Beatle, like
Yeah.
it was
That's
like,
how I dress to teach my computer classes.
yeah. The eccentric.
Yeah, no, that was for a Beatles show. Every year, the music school has a big annual fundraiser, and a number of teachers at the music school. We get together and we create this what we call the Asheville Beatles Band, and we've done it for maybe 4 or 5 years. I think we've played maybe 4 other albums in total. We've done Abbey Road, Magical Mystery Tour, Sgt. Pepper, and this last year was supposed to be the White Album, but that got,
Of course.
COVIDed out.
Yeah, you'll get back to it. You're not gonna say no to the White Album.
Although the White Album, I don't know, man. It's a double album.
Yep.
There's a lot of material, and it's a lot of really out there atonal
Revolution number 9
stuff. Revolution number 9. So I think the plan was to do like the best of the White Album. When you do a show, I don't have to tell you. You want to do stuff that people know and that they can sing along to and groove to. Yeah. And Revolution number 9 is not that.
Yeah, whatever.
We'll agree to disagree.
Yeah. Well, no, I think it's cool though. But yes, I understand. No, what I would say is that would be the thing that you can put on as you're walking out the door. Okay, so now how's your playing changed since, like, for the last 21 years you've been in Nashville?
Yeah.
So,
well, my
various bands in Nashville.
Playing changed because all through high school, I was. All through high school, I was playing that, and then Berklee, I was trying to do the, trying to do all the shreddy stuff, and then I got into just the blues. Joe Bonamassa, Stevie Ray, Matt Schofield, one of my favorite players. Mm-hmm. Lately, it's been Josh Smith, just an unbelievable blues player, incorporates a lot of jazz and country, and is really playing through the changes. But he's awesome. So really getting into blues, and then since I got into this country band, gaining an appreciation for country, which I never had growing up. My father always, John Denver and country. That's what he wanted me to play. And I actually like this stuff now, but like the old country, Willie Nelson, Loretta Lynn, and Albert Lee, of course, because he's, basically a shredder.
Yeah.
Brent Mason, because he's a shredder.
You remember Mike Ide?
What?
You remember Mike Ide?
No.
Okay, he was a Berklee teacher. He was he was one of the guys that taught country guitar.
Okay, well, see, I wish I was more open-minded back then.
Yeah.
So I've incorporated now into my playing, I think, a lot more styles than just Ozzy and Vivian Campbell.
Vandenberg.
I play more than just. I play more than just minor pentatonic now.
Yeah.
I know some other scales. I know some other arpeggios.
Yeah.
So my playing has gotten, I think, less shreddy. Maybe a bit more melodic. Maybe a bit more. I don't know that intelligent is the right word, but maybe more colorful, because I'm thinking more about chord tones and about trying to. Really trying to outline chords now, as opposed to just riff, lick, cliche.
Yep. So what are your students learning? What do there's challenges. You're one of the people, okay, so you really take that seriously. Not everybody does. Like the teaching end of things, you'll spend a great deal of time coming up with curriculum for
it depends on the students. Some students just want to learn how to play a song. And I've always been torn with that, because that's kind of what YouTube is for now. We didn't have YouTube as kids, and if you wanted to learn a song, you had to train your ear, or you went to your lesson and your teacher would transcribe it for you and teach you how to play a song. Now someone wants to learn, and I just taught a student. Love Rush. Was in a Rush cover band for years. Love Alex Fehl. Anyway, I digress. So I have some students who just want to learn how to play songs. And I think you have to be careful as an instructor not to squash their enthusiasm. And even though I think it's important to learn how to read music, and it's important to learn your scales and learn your theory, and learn your diatonic theory, and learn your arpeggios, and learn your pentatonics, and learn how everything goes together. Not everybody's interested in that. And if you start getting all mathy and scientific-y, and these are the rules
out of the gate,
you lose a lot of people.
Yeah.
So the students who just want to learn songs, I'm okay with that now. I'll teach them a song. I'll try to inject some, some theory and some musical language when I can, to kind of trick them into learning more than they think they're learning. Mm-hmm. And then I have other students who just want to learn how to shred. So I've got a bunch of studies on, here's how you sweep, here's how you do alternate picking, here's how you practice, here's how you do fast legato runs. So I have some students just interested in technique and shreddy stuff. And I got some students who really want to become better improvisers and learning how to navigate the fretboard. And for them, I really focus on the cage system and taking it from the ground up. And the tricky part there is that most people just want to learn how to play something right away. They want that instant gratification, play a song. But to really do it right, it takes years of practice to really digest it all. Mm-hmm. So I try to take it really slow and build it from the ground up, but also build in a lot of performance studies so that we're getting the theory, but then they're able to apply it right away. And then a little bit more theory and then apply it right away.
Yep.
And kind of building it up, little chunks at a time. Yeah, and I think I don't know that I have any one type of student that I enjoy more than others. Sometimes it's nice to just say, dude, here's how you play Tom Sawyer.
Okay. Is that what you like better?
Well, I like that because it's less work for me. Because I can start up a lesson and
what's funny about that is I've been playing that wrong for all these many years.
Oh yeah,
I got that chord I didn't know that was not. But then the advent of YouTube is Alex Lifeson showing you the chords he's playing. Oh, that's what he's playing?
Yeah.
I've been playing that song for 40 years wrong.
Wrong. Yeah. Well, yeah, most people have. So those kind of lessons are nice because they're easy for me. I don't have to think. I don't have to prepare. Here's a song. Let's play.
Yeah.
But I've always liked the challenge, and I like to be creative, and I like to create and produce things. So I really also enjoy the students that say, no, I want to know the theory. I want to know how things work. I want to know. I want to know how the altered scale is built. I want to look at the chord tones at your 1 and your 3 and your flat 7, and then you can sharp or flat to 9 and sharp or flat to 5. And if you take those notes and put them in order and name them inharmonically, then you have the altered scale and it makes sense.
Yeah.
And I love seeing how those puzzle pieces fit. And I love it when I have students that are interested in that academic part of it, but then they also, want to apply it.
Yeah. 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 So now, all your students play in these bands?
No.
Okay. Do any of them? Or is that two separate things?
No, those are two separate things. The ensemble that I teach, it's middle school, high school. I think throughout the years of that ensemble, I've always had at least one student of the ensemble also be a private guitar student. But obviously not everyone in the ensemble plays guitar. So they haven't always been private students of mine. They'll be ensemble. And then my private students range anywhere from, I've taught 6-year-olds and I've taught 80-year-olds. I've taught people with, 30 years playing experience, just playing on their own and never having any formal music education. And now they want to step things up a bit. And I have people, brand new, never touched the instrument before. People who want to learn punk and the Ramones and the Subways, and let's just bang out some Green Day chords. And then I've got people that want to learn fingerstyle and even some.
I think it's funny because at our age, because there are other teachers that specialize.
Yeah.
And they only want to do this, and this. So it's like it was never an option for us to specialize. At least because I taught music from 1989 on. As I said, my math skills are horrible. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. But
that's all you need.
And that's what you said, and bless you for that. Because so I'm no good. I'm not really that good at math. So I was a music, but we never had the option of saying, no, I don't like Dust in the Wind. I'm not going to teach you that. Or screw the acoustic guitar. Or no, I only play giant steps. Or, you know what I mean? There's guys that we're only going to show you jazz or whatever it is. Or shreddy. There's some people that I'm only going to teach shred. Okay. So
well, I mean, I'm
an option for us.
I'm of the philosophy that everything stems from jazz and blues. And if you teach jazz theory, but you don't have to call it jazz theory, you can just call it theory, or you can call it the cage system, or you can call it, let's look at minor pentatonics and major pentatonics. And,
The
you know,
number.
you can, yeah, you can brand it however you want. But I think if you teach that theory, whether the student wants to learn it or you're just kind of sliding it in under the radar, that can be applied to any style.
I know.
You know? I think blues is probably the easiest thing to apply it to in the beginning, because you could be really simple with the blues. You can stay in, you know, one shape minor pentatonic for the entire time and it sounds great. Then you can start to branch out and start to hit chord tones and use arpeggios and use chord substitutions and, you know, altered and diminished, and, you know, you can get pretty advanced. And if you listen to a lot of you know, metal and a lot of the shreddy stuff, that's all, or a lot of that is, you know, harmonic minor in modes of harmonic minor. So you get into Phrygian dominant, you get into melodic minor, you get into Lydian flat 7, and you get into all these quote exotic sounds like you hear Steve Vai and Joe Satriani playing. So I think that jazz theory, you know, it's applicable to rock, it's applicable to fusion, it's applicable to country, it's applicable to absolutely everything.
And jazz thought, like, where we can learn exactly note perfect. Like you're great at that, playing note perfect stuff. My wheelhouse is get it close enough but improvise. You know what I mean? But using the philosophy that, yes, we want to learn it exactly note perfect. We want to learn the style. We want to build that vocabulary, but also to be able to go further.
Exactly. Yeah.
At any given point.
And learning it note for note, or as close as you can, and really practicing the technique. And, you know, if you're trying to do the shreddy stuff, paying attention to inside picking versus outside picking versus down slant versus up slant versus how to hold your wrist versus how to navigate the strings, how to, you know, traverse the string. There's a lot of science that goes into it. And that to me is almost like a military discipline. You know, there's that aspect of it. Just the technique part. And, you know, a lot of players, you know, like Yngwie, say they never even practiced technique. They never consciously practiced it. They just wanted to play what they heard, and that technique was developed.
Yeah.
However it happens, whether you're doing it consciously or unconsciously, technique is one aspect of it. And I think a good way to get there is to try and learn other people's technique and try to copy it as best you can. So there's that side of it, but you're absolutely right. Having that, you know, being able to expand in just a free form improvisational way, whether you're doing that solely by ear or whether you know some of the scientific reasons and you're linking together scales and patterns and shapes that you know. I don't know. I think learning the academic background is helpful because it gives you kind of a level playing field. You know, okay, I know if I'm playing over 1, 4, 5, I can play this scale over the 1, this scale over the 4, this scale over the 5.
Yeah.
Now I have a plan.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to play a wrong note if I stay within those confines. I think that's a great start. And then you take it beyond that. Now you say, okay, now that you know what these things are, try not to think about scale, but try to use your ear. Now that you kind of know where these notes are, and try to develop that sense of musicality. So I think hitting it from all angles is really important.
Yes. Respect to you, seriously, because it's like not everyone cares that much about attention to detail is inspiring, because okay. So anyway, we're out of time, but I wanted to thank you because I'd like to do this more often because we're, you know, with the, you know how I feel though. Respect to you and thank you for doing this. This is neat.
Thank you for having me.
We're gonna go and thanks everybody who's watching, and if you have any questions for Alec, I guess I'm gonna put this on YouTube as well, and they can ask you any question and you decide. But
Yeah, they can ask me questions, stick a link up there to my site. It's got all my contact information there.
Yep.
alecfell.com. Easy to
Okay.
remember. There's a contact form in there if anyone has any, technical questions, theory questions,
All right.
questions, anything.
Thank you so much. This was wonderful. It's good to catch up with you.
You too. Thanks, man.
Yep. See you then. See you, Jackie.
She says bye.
See you then.